Okay, how we doing everybody? This is Sam and this is going to be my first video for my new channel, the Manson Method, which is going to be talking about everything diabetes related. So this is the first video I'm doing, quite excited to do it. I am driving. I thought I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'm on the way to meet the mother. So first of all, we're going to talk about type 1 diabetes, because I'm type 1 diabetic, and I'm also going to be talking about type 2 diabetes. But first I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. So at the age of 4, I'll stop now. Age of 4, I became type 1. I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I'm now 30, so I've been dealing with this condition for about 26 years. Bit busy on the road today. So yeah, I've been dealing with it a long time. I've got a lot of experience in it. It's pretty much all I've ever known. And let's just say, like most of us that ever become diagnosed with type 1, we don't probably handle it that well to begin with. Even though I was just a little kid, when I got to my teens, you know, you go off the rails, things like that, and then you just sort of like learn as you go, and it's really up to the individual on how they want to control the matter or control the condition and try and get the best experience in life or quality of life out of it as they can. So diagnosed at 4, I started off as far back as I can remember. Like, it was always my parents that were giving me my injections, you know, testing my blood sugar, so it was like a new experience for them as well. But as far back as I can remember, when I started doing things myself, I was on one insulin, and that was, so this is going back to like 1994, and I had to take that injection at set times during the day. Now, I think this was Act Rapid, so it was like it wasn't a fast insulin, it wasn't a basal one because that came later, it was like medium acting. So I remember, you know, I had to eat at a specific time in the morning, have a snack in between, specific time at lunch, so it was basically 3 big meals and then 2 or 3 snacks spread out throughout the day, and that's how I handled it, and it's pretty much all I did. And then next thing, they bring out Lantus, and I believe Levemir was probably out around the same time, I'm not too sure, but I was on Lantus for quite a while. And the explanation given to me about how Lantus works is that you basically take it as a background, and that works like your pancreas dripping insulin into your bloodstream all day to keep your sugar levels under control, and it gives you more flexibility around when you want to have meals. So I thought that was great, went along with that for years and years and years, and then the next thing, I was on Tresiba, because I had to start splitting my Lantus dose when I realised that it peaks around 8 hours and then my blood sugars would start to rise. So I go on Tresiba, and Tresiba works like a gem. I believe it lasts for 30 odd hours, so it was basically designed for those that do shifts, so they don't have to take it at the exact time of night. If you do take basal insulin, pretty much I think everyone does that is on manual direct injection, try and go on Tresiba with your diabetes specialist if you haven't done it yet, because with other basals like Lantus and Levemir, if you don't take it roughly around the same time every day, it can have an impact on your diabetes, where with Tresiba it has shown that it doesn't really have much an effect off like running out, because it lasts for like well over 24 hours. So let's fast forward to the age of 24. I decide, I've always just done like dead end jobs from like the age of 18 up to 24. I had been working in retail for a bit, and I decided that I wanted to go for my personal training career. And I go into college, and I got my qualification over 2 years, and it kind of dawned on me that I should really learn as much about my own condition and sort myself out before I'm qualified to like take other people under my wing and be responsible for them. So yeah, that's what I done, and this is when I really took control of my diabetes, and I decided to investigate and, you know, research as much as I possibly could, like things that had been bugging me, you know, like everything that frustrates you, like why blood sugars rise, you know, the difference. I was noticing like the difference between certain carbohydrates that I was taking. Some would kick in sooner than others. So a lot of things that I wasn't finding answers for through my diabetes team. Now that doesn't mean that they weren't good, it's just that you only see them for maybe 20 minutes every 4 months. And yeah, I wanted to get more answers, so I thought I'm going to start looking at this myself. So in doing that, I come across something called keto. Now for those that have never heard of keto, I'm surprised, because 2018 was keto's year. That's when it really kicked off. And yeah, so keto's all about very low carb. So you can go low carb, which is, I'd say, anything under 100 grams a day, maybe about 100 grams. But keto is under 30 grams of carbs a day. Now, as a type 1 diabetic that I'd never come across this before, I was thinking, you know, it's drilled into you, if you don't eat carbs, your blood sugars will drop and you will be hypoglycemic. You'll feel like crap all the time. So I decided to give it a try, and yeah, just no consideration to dropping basal rates. Literally didn't take any fast-acting insulin at all, because I was just hypoing like all the time, which is not what we want. So I tried it for a couple of weeks, see how it went, and yeah, it wasn't working. So after that, I went back to, you know, trying higher carbs again, and you go through like the diabetes roller coaster that we've all been on. So with the diabetes roller coaster, the problem with it is that you're never in a stable state. You're always either high and going down, feeling low, correcting it, going up, injecting insulin, coming down. It's just a vicious cycle. And the problem is that's what carbohydrates do to the body. Okay, now a lot of the talking that I'm going to be doing about on this channel is low carb approach to nutrition, and it's not for everybody. And believe me, I've been on a lot of diabetes forums where people have argued with me because they feel like it's within their right as a human being to consume carbohydrates. But you know what, if your control is good and you eat carbohydrates and you have a good quality life, then absolutely crack on, do what you need to do. But if your control is not giving you a good quality life, you feel like shit every single day, your bloods are up, your bloods are down, and something needs to change. And I believe that going low carb is one of the best, most effective strategies that you can use to manage this condition. So 2016 is when I officially started going back on the keto diet after doing a lot of research on it. And this time I was a bit more clever about it. I took into consideration that my basal rates would need to drop. I was researching that they would typically drop between 30 to 50% off whatever I was on. And yeah, literally carbs were like below 30 grams a day. Now, I'll go into this on another video, but if you do know a little bit about the ketogenic diet, you'll recognise the word ketones, which is a factor in the ketogenic diet, and health professionals like diabetes specialists and that, they freak out when you mention ketones because a lot of them don't know the difference. Not all of them, but a lot of them don't know the difference between nutritional ketosis and diabetic ketoacidosis. Now, diabetic ketoacidosis is a very dangerous acidotic state for diabetics to be in. Type 1 diabetics. Only type 1 diabetics, can't speak today. Only type 1 diabetics can become DKA. And basically how this happens is your bloods, when they go up in sugar, so the sugar levels in the blood rise so much that the body starts breaking down fat in order to try and get the ketones out, the sugar out of the bloodstream. Now it's a lot more scientific than that, but that's just a pretty simplistic way to break it down, okay? So, DKA, very bad. Diabetic ketoacidosis. Nutritional ketosis, brilliant, right? So, like I was saying, dropping the basal rates, dropping overall carb consumption, you have to fine-tune this so much to get it right. And it is trial and error. And something else I will be talking a lot about this is you need to monitor your diabetes as though it's your job. Okay? If you were running your own business, like I do as a personal trainer, and you do not have your head in the game, you do not know your numbers, the breakdown of your business, what's happening inside and out, your business will never thrive. And you'll never move forward. You always want growth, and you want growth within your diabetes control. A lot of us become very complacent with diabetes control. I know, trust me, after 26 years, I have been through it all. I know what it's like to, wake up some days and just go, screw it, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm just going to eat what I want, and it always comes back around to bite you in the arse. So it's entirely up to you how much focus you want to give to it, and it pays off. It really does pay off when you decide to give it your best shot and really focus and zone in on that control. So back to keto, best blood sugar control I've ever had. I mean, no longer waking up in the 20s or even the teens or double figures for that matter. You learn it isn't just as simple as cutting out the carbs. Once you cut out carbs, you start to realise that protein triggers an insulin response. So does fat, but you barely even notice it. So every single thing you eat in a non-diabetic will stimulate insulin. Okay, that's just a fact. Don't believe anyone that tells you that it's just carbs. Mostly carbs, protein to some extent, and then fats just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm at Sheriff Hall now, so I don't want to crash. So bear with me. Oh, there we go. Right. So yeah, you start to realise that you've got a lot better blood sugar control, and you need a lot less insulin requirements, right, which is great. So, the NHS legally can't advise this, but how much money do you think I'm saving the NHS every single year with much less insulin requirements? Yeah, they don't look into it and they don't advise it. But you know what? It might happen down the line, who knows? So, yeah, lower insulin requirements. Keto worked really, really well. One of the absolute bonus features of it is, I know a lot of you will be saying you had whatever shape you were in, whatever your physique was like, you become diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and suddenly you start putting on the weight. When you do this, your weight drops and it's almost effortlessly it comes off, and it's absolutely brilliant if you've never experienced it before. Okay, you could have maybe tried every diet under the sun, and then suddenly you start eating a low carb ketogenic approach, and next thing you know, the weight's just like falling off you. Okay, in a good way as well. So after that, I have done keto for, let's see, 2016 up to pretty much last year, on and off. The longest I had ever done it for, straight without screwing it up. And when I say screwing it up, I mean like having a cheat meal, or the weekend, or a week, whatever. Probably about 12 weeks. And that didn't mean that I didn't go back on it for ages after that. That was just like maybe that weekend I had something that had carbs in it, and it would maybe kick me out of ketosis, because it doesn't take a lot to kick you out of ketosis. And then it's, you know, you need to get back on it again. So I've done it pretty much 80% of the time over the past 4 years, okay? Currently, right now, I've taken it a step further, and I'm doing the carnivore diet. Okay, now that's gaining a lot of popularity in 2020. I think 2019 actually was when people first started talking about it. I knew about it anyway, and I trialled it last year, and I wasn't doing it 100% effectively, because carnivore is essentially zero carbs. You take the ketogenic diet, which is made up of meat and vegetables, dairy, just no starchy carbs, no processed foods. You take that one step further and go into carnivore, you remove the vegetables anyway. Some people still do dairy, but I realised the mistake I made last year is that having sausages, having some processed meats, having the dairy, when I would use like MyFitnessPal or something to calculate my food intake, I was still hitting around 10 grams of carbs a day. So even though I took out the vegetables, I was still getting some carbs in. So we're basically coming out the end of lockdown now, right? Now, I was in brilliant shape, probably the best shape I've ever been in prior to lockdown. So what was that, March? And I got into lockdown, and like 99% of us, it has hit us so hard. We've had no motivation whatsoever. It's the benefits of exercise psychologically, mentally and physically they all dropped. Now there'll be folk that have kept it up. I tried to keep up exercise, but you know, you're repeating the same day after day, and eventually just takes its toll. Okay, a lot of my clients, you know, they stopped training because of factors like this, and it's understandable. You know, it takes a very, very strong-minded individual to push yourself through that when you're so used to having a routine. You're not going to work, you're not going to the gym, you're limited by the equipment that you can use. Like temptation at every corner just to drink alcohol and consume high carb, high sugar processed food. So basically, more than half of the time in lockdown, like that's what I was doing. And then I realised my health was all over the place again, and I had to make a change. So 2 months ago, 8 weeks now, I started carnivore again, and I done it 100% how you're meant to do it. So I took out all the vegetables again. I didn't have any processed foods, so that's like things like sausages. You know, I cut out dairy, and I'm logging everything, and I am literally like zero carbs all the time. Now, going from the version I done last year and at the start of this year, with still having some carbs in the system, and transfer, like now going into like proper carnivore, the difference in how my blood sugars have been affected is absolutely unbelievable. So typically, let me just put it like this, okay? So if I eat carbs, like I'm not saying a high carb diet, just like a standard carbohydrate based diet where like 50% of your calories are coming from carbs. 2 seconds. I would probably be on basal rates around 30-35 units a Tresiba background insulin, and then, you know, however many carbs I cover it with like 1 unit per 10 grams of carbs. So you're talking 50 minimum, probably up in the 60s. And during lockdown, when I was eating rubbish, I was having over 100 units of insulin a day. Now I'm a relatively lean guy, and that's a lot of insulin, okay? Me, standard for a keto diet, probably between 20-25 units of insulin. New carnivore diet, averaging 15 units of insulin a day, okay? Now, for a few days running, I was experimenting a lot with this, okay? 4 days in a row, I didn't need to bolus at all. For those that don't know what bolus is, like, bolus is fast acting insulin, basal is slow acting background insulin. So I was on 13-14 units of basal insulin a day, and I was fasting, because I do intermittent fasting as well, having 1 meal a day, exercising, having my protein and my fats for that 1 meal, and my bloods were just a streamline the entire time. And I've never experienced anything like that, okay? And the annoying thing is because we're in lockdown, I really want to go to the diabetes specialist and let them know, but I've had to do it over the phone, and the results I was getting were after I had already spoken to them. So, you know, it wasn't like I was able to go in and say like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing now, and I've got the best control I've ever had. So I've played around with my nutrient intake, and I've had more protein, less fats. That has required me to have like a bit more insulin. I'm needing to bolus more now. I'm also, my exercise regime is more intense. I will go into that in other videos, the difference between doing aerobic and anaerobic training, and what it does to your diabetes, blood sugar control. So that's me just came into Fort Kinnaird now, so I'm going to find a parking space, and we're going to conclude this video, because that's nearly, well, that's over 20 minutes. This is a long one. They won't all be this long, by the way, just in case you were thinking. So yeah, lowest amount of insulin I have ever been on in my life, and my bloods very rarely go over 6, 7. I mean, I can't remember the last time that they were in double figures since I've been doing this for 2 months now. It is, honestly, it's unbelievable. Right, chuck this bad boy in here. So that's pretty much me. Just gave you a run through my life with diabetes up to today. Okay. So what I'm going to conclude with is, this channel is going to be about my method. So I've called it the Manson method. Okay. Now other people probably do this, but I've read so many diabetes books, and you know, everyone has different ways of controlling it. And at the end of the day, we are all our own diabetes. We are all our own diabetics. And what works for me may not work for you. Some of what works for me might work for you. But it all comes down to learning as much as you can about this condition, applying what you learn, and see how it goes for you. But overall, guys, your quality of life has to be right up there. Because if it's not, you'll run into problems later on in life. You'll never stick to a plan. I say that to clients all the time. If we're doing something that you don't enjoy, if you're eating a way that doesn't feel natural, then it is essentially a diet. Okay, when you go on a diet, you have to come off a diet. If you find a way of eating that works for you, you will never diet a day in your life. Okay, and that's a fact. So stay tuned. I'm going to try and get a video every week. It will not be as long as this. This is about 25 minutes now. I'll just be putting up topics. If you leave comments on requests for certain topics, I will look at them and try and put out and address people's questions as much as I can. Right, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe and hit the like button as well. Share the video with anyone that you think can get you know, help, or you know, like they need help with their diabetes, or they can get what's the word I'm looking for? Benefits. That's the one. Benefits out of watching this video. Okay, right, I'm gonna go find the mother. See you later.